Want to know why? Ask how. Howard the Humongous. Elections are coming up in 3 days, and I've got news for you. President Barack Obama is not at all what we think he is. Predictions are that Republicans are going to win big. In addition to blocking legislation and threatening to shut down the government through their majority in Congress, now Republicans will be able to paralyze the Senate too. And the odds are good that in 2016, the Republicans will also take over the White House. This doesn't make sense. Republican policies have been the same for over 100 years. Lower taxes for the rich, make life tougher for the poor. Get rid of social safety nets, and help the 1% get richer. That policy doesn't work. It never has. Republicans cause depressions. The Long Depression of 1873 to 1879, yes, that's 1873 to 1879, took place under Republican President Ulysses S. Grant. The next Great Depression, the Great Depression of 1929 to 1939, kicked off under two Republican presidents, Calvin Coolidge and Herbert Hoover. And the Great Recession of 2007, the next Great Depression, hit after 6 years of so-called tax cutting and so-called government shrinking by Republican President George W. Bush, who racked up one of the biggest debts we've ever seen in American history. Hard as it is to believe, Republican policies have been the same all those years, from the time of President Ulysses S. Grant to the time of George W. Bush, 141 years later. To see why, read the brilliant book, To Make Men Free, A History of the Republican Party by Heather Cox Richardson. Meanwhile, what's the Democrats' track record? What's their real track record? Not the talking points tossed around in Republican speeches and attack ads. Even Forbes Magazine, the magazine of business and of super wealth, says, quote, Obama outperforms Reagan on jobs, growth, and investing, close quote. In fact, Forbes says that in a headline, which is very strange. Forbes is owned by Steve Forbes, a man worth $430 million. Poor baby, he's not a billionaire. Forbes is a staunch Republican who has run for president on the Republican ticket. He's a man who seems to hate Barack Obama. So why would Forbes magazine say that, quote, Obama outperforms Reagan? Remember, Ronald Reagan has become the modern Republican Party's god. So what impels Forbes to say that Obama is better? Over 9 million jobs have been created under Barack Obama. Thanks to Obamacare, 10 million more people have health insurance. And most important, you know I hate paper, and most important, Obama's Democratic policy is apparently good for guess who? It's good for business. Very good for business. Corporate profits have nearly tripled under Barack Obama. Can you believe that? Tripled. The stock market has more than doubled. The Dow Jones and the Standard & Poor are now at their highest point in history. Says Forbes, quote, a dollar invested when Reagan assumed the presidency would have yielded a staggering 190% return. Such returns were unheard of prior to Reagan's leadership, close quote. But how about under Barack Obama? Says Forbes, quote, it is undeniable that President Obama has surpassed that Reagan record. Investors have gained a remarkable 220% over the last 5 years. This level of investor growth, says Forbes, is unprecedented by any administration. Yes, unprecedented by any administration. Any administration in American history, Republican or Democrat. And that, says Forbes, is the result of the policies of the magazine's least favorite president on planet Earth, Barack Obama. What's more, says Forbes, under George W. Bush, American industry was hemorrhaging. Quote, when President Obama took office, says Forbes, America was gripped in an offshoring boom, started years earlier, pushing jobs to the developing world. Manufacturing, says Forbes, was declining in America, and plants were closing across the nation, close quote. Under Obama, all of that has been reversed. Concludes Forbes, under Obama, we've had 63 straight months of economic expansion and 25 consecutive months of manufacturing expansion. To repeat Forbes' conclusion, Obama has outdone Ronald Reagan. He's been better for the average worker, and surprisingly, he's also been better for the average fat cat. What Forbes doesn't say is that pro-business Republican policies can be poison for business. The stock market went down 8.9% under George W. Bush and 17% under Richard Nixon. But that's a subject for another time. So why do we all hate Barack Obama? I hate him for lying about the transparency he was supposedly going to give us, and then giving us the National Security Administration and its tendrils into your privacy and mine. I admire his air attacks on the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, but I'm afraid that his half measures may not be enough. The man is too prone to compromise. And I'm deeply suspicious of his ability to stop Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons. Remember, Iran has the ballistic missiles and is developing even more to land those nuclear warheads in North America. But when it comes to the economy, things are different. There, Barack Obama has apparently triumphed. So why have we all been bamboozled into thinking our economy is in the toilet? Why do 66% of us now believe that America is headed down the wrong path? Could Republican media manipulation have something to do with it? Could we all be more outfoxed than we realize by super conservative media like Fox News and the holdings of Rupert Murdoch, the Wall Street Journal, for example? And could we be fooled by a practice that Ivan Pavlov, the legendary Russian psychologist who made dogs salivate to the sound of a bell, would have been proud of? Could we be bamboozled by the fact that Republican candidates have been taught a shrewd discipline? The discipline of repeating simple phrases concocted at party headquarters, repeating them like parrots, repeating catchphrases like, quote, failed Obama policies, close quote. Could it be that we believe just about anything we hear 100 times or more, even if it's false? Could we really be that gullible? Yes. It's called cueing in psychology, and there's a vast literature on its effectiveness. From the 1950s to the 1980s, it was called something else you may have heard of: subliminal suggestion, subliminal advertising. To overcome your subliminal suggestions and your cueing, remember the headline from Forbes: Obama outperforms Reagan on jobs, growth, and investing. Keep it in mind when you vote, if you can. After all, I've only said it twice. This is Howard the Humongous, speaking to you from the future. It's your job and my job to make. Or, want to know why? Ask how. And now for that sleazy, slimy, sneaky, insubstantial, impossible to discover off button. Aha, I've got it.